and welcome to episode 23 of the Tea and Possibilities podcast. I'm Nikki and this is a podcast all about knitting, crochet and making all the things here in northwest London. You can find me online on Twitter and Instagram at hippie_Nikki. I'm on Ravelry as Nikki Hippie, and if you search for Tea and Possibilities under the groups tab, you will find our group there. All of the show notes will be on my blog, which you can find the link to along with all the other links just down below. If this is your first time with the podcast, thank you so much for giving me a chance. I really hope you enjoy it. Welcome. And if you are a returning viewer, a massive welcome to you as well, and I hope you have a cup of tea and you're knitting with you. This week's tea for a change is not in my Hufflepuff mug, it's in one that I just found in the cupboard. And I'm actually drinking one of the green teas that I got in Edinburgh, the monkey one, was it White Monkey, I think? And I did use the very strange looking alien tea infuser pod, but I couldn't leave it in there very long because it's quite a narrow teacup and it wasn't very comfortable to drink from, so I had to wait for it to finish infusing before I could actually pick it up and have a drink. This week has been a bit of a one, I have to say. I don't know if I've mentioned it before, but I suffer from a tendinopathy in my shoulder. I have hypermobility and a combination of factors just makes this shoulder a little bit tricky. And it did slightly misalign itself this week. I have popped it back into place. It wasn't dislocated or anything like that, it just kind of moves and doesn't sit right in its socket. It's the best way I can describe it, which is not very comfortable, not when you like to knit. So I've still got some muscular pain, I still feel a bit stiff, but otherwise everything is fine. It's just kind of limited the time that I could knit. Writing got a bit difficult at one point as well. But there we go, that's why I work out in an attempt to keep everything holding itself together. As you can probably see, I am also wearing my brand new Hufflepuff jumper. We will cover that in Knit and Natter, but yes, I did go to Harry Potter Studios in Leavesden this week. We will come back to that. So for those Harry Potter fans among you, there is some content about Harry Potter this week. That hasn't held me back though, and I have managed to get a fair bit done on one project in particular, and I've got lots of things to tell you about in Knit and Natter as well. So let's move straight on to Whipped Up. Now it's probably going to be no surprise to you to discover that my Find Your Fade, which I have named Find Your House, is still on the naughty step, shall we say. Spoiler alert, I did go to Harry Potter Studios in Leavesden this week. We'll come to that in Knit and Natter, and I was reinvigorated by the idea, but I have something I want to finish before I return to my Find Your Fade, and that something is my librarian cardigan. Now the cardigan that I'm calling my librarian cardigan is actually the Hortensia by Andy Satterland, and I am knitting it in Cascade 220 Superwash in the Purple Heathers colourway. And now it does actually look like a cardigan. Ta-da! You can probably see I still have my lifeline in. I should probably remove that because I don't need it anymore. I just haven't got around to doing it yet. As you can see, the body of the cardigan is finished. It comes sort of mid-rib on me, which is a really nice point for it to stop. I really like cardigans that finish there. And I have almost got one sleeve. I've got a few more rows of stockinette and then the ribbing, and then I will be casting on the second sleeve. And then all I'll have left to do is the really beautiful shawl collar. I'm really hoping to have this all but finished by next week's podcast. It's a bank holiday weekend, and I actually have next Friday off because it's Rich's birthday. We were planning to go away and plans have changed, but I decided to keep a few days off just to see some friends, get some knitting time in. It's been a bit non-stop this part of the year, and it would just be nice to take a little bit of a breather. So I fully intend to work on this week, hopefully finish the second sleeve, and then get it finished over that time off that I have. And maybe get some work on my fade done as well. But yeah, I am incredibly happy with this. I would pop it on for you, but it's not really going to go over my sweatshirt very well. But it does fit very nicely. It's nice and closely fitted across the bust. It nips in nicely around my rib cage, my waist here. The sleeves are quite good. I keep trying it on to make sure that I get the right length. This is about the length I like for sleeves. That's about the shortest. I like having them really close to my hands because I tend to fiddle with them, unfortunately. I'm also kind of looking at my brooch here and thinking that yellow would go really nicely with this purple. But I am still in love with this project. I absolutely adore it. It's actually been quite gentle on my shoulder because it's quite small. It's not too heavy really, despite the fact that it's worsted weight yarn. And working on the sleeve, I've just been going round and round and round and round, and it hasn't been too arduous. So it's just the project that I needed really. I didn't get any work done on my crochet blanket this week, which I'm really quite sad about because my friend is going away in August, it turns out. So I've got a month less than I thought I had, and I've also lost the crochet hook. I honestly don't know where I've lost it. It's the Addy one, the ergonomic grip one, which I actually find really, now that I've got a way of working with it that suits me, I actually find really comfortable to use. Yeah, no idea where it's gone. Might have to order another one. I might, while I'm ordering another one, just have a look and get some more yarn, because it's definitely going to need more yarn, and you might as well order it all in one go and save on the postage. But while we are on the subject of cardigans, which we kind of were because I'm knitting one, I have been thinking about my beautiful Fire Song silk yarn that I received as part of my Reddit yarn exchange. And I know that I'd said maybe a cowl, maybe some wristers, maybe a hat, because there's not loads of it. I kind of really want to knit garments right now. I've got, as soon as I finish the Hortensia, I'm going to start working on the Gingerbread by Libby Johnson. I have a Pavement in the works by Vera Valimaki, and I think there are a couple of others that I've got on my queue. I just really want to work on garments at the moment, and that's so beautiful. That, oh, it's just so lovely, and I think it would make such a beautiful garment. Unfortunately, I do only have the 2 skeins. So I have been looking into it, and I found something that I think might work for me. The pattern is called Easy, and it's by Zandy Peters. I will link to it in the show notes. But it's essentially just a little shrug. It just goes like this, and it's got short sleeves. I think I could extend them to 3/4 length, but I think that might be pushing it. And I just thought it would look like a nice little summery evening cover-up. And the beautiful thing about this pattern is that it's all in one colour, and then it's got bands around the edging and the bottom and on the cuffs that you can do in a contrast colour. So I thought that a really nice soft grey would look beautiful with those colours, and I was wondering if I did the whole body in that and then got some grey yarn just to do the border, then I would probably have enough, and it would be beautiful. It would be like the most perfect little mermaidy short jacket, and I think I'm gonna have to make it into a garment. I have so many accessories and bits and pieces, and I love knitting them, don't get me wrong, they are so much fun to make, but I just want something really spectacular out of this yarn, and I think a garment could be the way to go. Let me know if you think that's absolute madness. I'm hoping it's not. I'm also wondering if maybe I already have some grey in my stash. That's something that I'm planning to do next weekend on my few days off. I'm going to have a root through and start cataloguing the stash on Ravelry. maybe get the camera out so I can get some photos as well and start. I think Katie did this quite recently, Katie of Inside Number 23, and just started putting things in appropriate bags. And I think that really appeals to me at the moment, because for those of you who don't know, my partner and I have recently moved back to London. London is where I'm from, and we are currently living in my family home. We decided that as we weren't going to be here very long, it was kind of a stopgap while we found our own place, that we would pack things up and not unpack them, because who wants to pack again? I hate moving, I hate packing. We were hoping to reduce the amount of packing. But it has left me feeling slightly frazzled, because I still have that very much unsettled feeling, which is not very nice for me. I know some people who can just, water off a duck's back, but for me, I like to have everything unpacked. I like everything to have a place. I am naturally quite a messy person. I'm incredibly disorganised, which is why I am so picky about having a diary, making lists, trying to keep on top of everything. Because even though I'm naturally inclined to being a bit scatterbrained and untidy, I don't like living within that. It's a curse, guys. It's a curse. So I am feeling a little bit frazzled. And I'm kind of taking every opportunity that I can to organise and to make sense of things. And I just have this real urge to catalogue my stash in an incredibly detailed way that I have never felt the need to before. And I do think that stems from this feeling of, not being quite settled. And this is something that I have control over, that I can deal with, that I can do, that I can organise and feel really good about. So yeah, that's probably what I'll be up to next weekend. Now, before we move on to Knit and Natter, where there'll be lots of Harry Potter goodness, because did I mention, spoiler alert, I went to Harry Potter Studios this week. I don't know if I mentioned that. I just wanted to let you know that the lovely Lisa of Counting Sheep, who a couple of weeks ago sent me some beautiful skeins of yarn, one of which will be going as a prize for the Best Year Ever Cal at the end of the year. She has just launched her online shop. It's currently in German, but you can Google Translate it, so please don't let that hold you back. And she dyes beautiful one-of-a-kind skeins of yarn. There's some hand spun in there. Really, really beautiful things. So I will be linking to that in the show notes. And, if you go to her shop and you fall over and some skeins land in your basket, I'm really sorry, but don't blame me. Now that we've covered everything and whipped up, let's move on to Knit and Natter. I'm sorry that was such a short whipped up. As I said, it's been a slightly unhealthy week. I haven't been able to get to the gym because obviously I couldn't work out with my shoulder in the state it was. I was trying to knit, but I was also trying to be sensible, and as soon as it started kind of moaning at me, I would stop. So I just didn't get as much done as I hoped, which is a real shame, especially when you have a podcast and you want to have things to share with people. But worry not, there will be more next week. But I still have lots to share because, yes, I went to Harry Potter Studios in Leavesden, which I know that I have mentioned throughout this episode so far. I have been there once before. Rich took me for my birthday last March, which is quite funny because 2 years before that we actually lived in Watford and the bus would go past our window. And the whole time we were there, we never went. We probably could have walked there and we never went. But he took me as my birthday surprise last year and I loved it. I wrote quite an in-depth podcast. No, I wasn't podcasting then. I wrote quite an in-depth blog post about my trip and about why Harry Potter is important to me. I revisited recently on Thursday with a very good friend of mine who is completely Potter mad, which is lovely, and we went to see the Forbidden Forest. I'm sure that you already know that the studio tour is incredible. It's so wonderful to see the costumes and the sets and the wigs and all these things that actually came together to create this world. And this second time I went, they had changed the robes that Dumbledore was wearing in the Great Hall. When I had been the first time, it was Michael Gambon robes, and this time it was Richard Harris robes. And there were so many details that I'd missed the first time round. Obviously the Forbidden Forest hadn't been there, and it was just a great experience. We got ourselves a Groupon ticket, which I didn't realise till on the day, actually included the new up-to-date guide, a hot meal halfway round, including butterbeer in the souvenir mug, which was really lovely. And we were able to start our tour later in the day after the usual tours had finished, so it was a lot quieter. Obviously I bought myself a Hufflepuff jumper and a headgirl badge. Proud Hufflepuff. It's all about the puff pride over here, guys. There is no shame in being a Hufflepuff. And I had been looking for a poster that I've been looking for ages, because I want to make it part of a set on the wall of our next home. I want 2 Harry Potter posters, one from the first film and one from the last film, but I'm looking for a very specific one. Haven't been able to get hold of it yet, but you know, I live in hope. But ultimately what I wanted to talk to you about today is obsession, because I hear a lot as, you know, a full-grown adult, a 30-year-old woman who buys things like a Harry Potter jumper and spends money going to the studio tour when I've already been there. And I know some people I follow online who are not into Harry Potter, who aren't really fandom type people, just don't get it. And I have heard some people on podcasts go, you know, I don't understand this desire to fixate on your childhood and be obsessed with something that is for kids. And I understand that. If it's not your bag, it must be very difficult to understand. But I just wanted to talk about that a bit this week, because I think it's something that I've always kind of wondered, like, why do I love this so much? Why have I not gotten over this? But there is a reason, and I think in many ways the reason is the same for a lot of people who still love Harry Potter or Disney or whatever it is that you still really cherish. You know, and there'll also be personal elements about why you do. For me, I discovered Harry Potter when I was 11. I was in year 7 at school. It was my first year in secondary school. And I was incredibly naive. I was a very young 11. I really still enjoyed playing with dolls and things like that. And I very much had this feeling of there were certain things I couldn't mention because it wasn't cool. So having this world to retreat into was really, really lovely. I still, at 11 years old, wanted to be a witch. I'd read The Worst Witch and things like that, and I loved it. So it was very much a place of safety for me. This became even more so, unfortunately, when I was about 15. I think it was it was about 15 because I was in year 10, the year before I took my GCSEs. I was bullied pretty relentlessly for that entire year, to the point where I changed schools. The change didn't last very long because it was a completely different curriculum and I wasn't about to jeopardise my GCSEs, basically. So I did go back and it was fine. But for that year, I must have reread those books half a dozen times. I think we were up to Goblet of Fire at that point. I would have to check that. It was definitely Prisoner of Azkaban or Goblet of Fire. And I just kept going back to these stories. On a very simplistic level, they gave me comfort. They were my favourite place. They were somewhere I could escape to. The films had started to come out at this point, so I was also enjoying those and rewatching those quite regularly. And it did, make me feel like I had some friends, and this is not me asking for pity or anything like that, because it was a very long time ago. It doesn't, it's not something I worry about anymore. But I think that's why these stories had such a strong impact on me, because they carried me through, a very difficult time. And they also really taught me that I do not have to be ashamed of the way I view the world. I am aware that to a certain extent I am also naive now. I like to think that people who go into politics, for example, want to help people. They want to make the world a better place. And I feel that I have to believe that. For me, that is something I have to believe. And for me, Harry Potter symbolises the way I see the world. You know, there are people in that book who, you know, they believe in love and they believe in loyalty and they believe in sticking by the people that you care for, no matter what. One of the things that really struck me about the book is this idea that you don't have to be related to be a family. You know, I think we can all agree that Harry, Ron and Hermione very much become a family. The Weasleys completely draw Harry in. You know, he is considered one of their family. Not one of them think of him as just, you know, this one of their son's friends. He is absolutely one of their family. And it goes for a lot of the characters. You know, Neville finds a home in the DA, Neville and Luna. Hogwarts will always be there to welcome you home. That is a quote from Jo Rowling that really struck me, because when I am having a hard time, I return to these books. I maybe don't return to them as often as I used to, but I still return to them, and they are a great source of comfort for me because they remind me of a time in my life when they helped me through, and they also remind me that there are people in this world who do believe in love and generosity and loyalty and doing the very best you can by your friends. So that's why, as a 30-year-old woman, I love going to see the studios and rereading the books and watching the films. I love it. And, you know, to a certain extent, that's, you know, why I enjoy a lot of the things I enjoy. Knitting, for example. Why am I so obsessed with knitting? Because I love it. Because it gives me that inner peace and that calmness, and it makes me feel good and skilled. And doing this podcast and knitting has allowed me to meet some incredible people, most of whom I think would be completely at home in Hogwarts. You know, I have met through this podcast people who are generous and kind and completely without game playing or anything like that. And this is such an open community. And I know that there are people out there who don't get it, who don't get why you would get obsessed with, you know, how brilliant Beauty and the Beast was, or Harry Potter, or Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. Anything like that. You know, I've recently had a real resurgence in my love for Doctor Who. People don't get it. And I understand if stories in that way and fandom don't get you. I totally understand why you wouldn't be able to get your head around it. But I don't see anything wrong with loving a children's story when you're, you know, a grown-up person. I am also very much of the opinion that stories like Doctor Who and Harry Potter are incredibly clever because they're ostensibly children's stories. You know, Doctor Who has an early evening time slot so that the kids can watch it before they go to bed. Harry Potter is marketed as a children / young adult novel. I just think they are so much cleverer than that. These stories, you know, I appear to have brought Doctor Who into it, but yeah, these stories are an opportunity to ask questions. You know, adults love them for a reason, and I don't just think it's the escapism. I think that they do enjoy the simplicity of these characters who are loyal to each other, who love each other, who care for each other and would do anything for each other. And for me, they're incredibly clever because they offer up an opportunity to discuss things with your children. You know, Harry Potter covers things like you know, slavery and the way we treat the people who are other from us. You know, the house elves, werewolves. these raise important issues. You know, you can discuss why is there these people that desperately want power? Why does Albus Dumbledore insist that love is the thing that will ultimately win this war? You know, in Doctor Who, they're always talking about the other. You know, they go to alien planets and it's always about, you have to respect this culture, you have to respect these people. They may be different from you, but they are not lesser. And that's, for me, a fantastic opportunity to open up a discussion with younger people. You know, to use the opportunity to talk about how that reflects in our own everyday world. And I love that. And I think that it is very powerful and it shouldn't be dismissed because it is for children. And I do think that in many ways obsession is a good thing. I mean, obviously if you're obsessed with something that's bad for you, that's probably not good. And if it's leading to financial ruin, as it very easily can do in that gift shop in Harry Potter Studios, also not a good thing. But there is nothing wrong with obsession. Sometimes the fact that I love knitting, that I am obsessed with knitting, there's nothing wrong with it, because all it means is that I want to learn more, make more, understand more about fibre and technique and all of these masses of things that I can learn about. And that's good. To have something that you are that passionate about is good, and it should be celebrated as your own quirk. You know, the fact that I am obsessed with tea and Harry Potter and Doctor Who and knitting and chocolate, let's face it, chocolate. These are passions that make up who I am, and I would love to hear your obsessions. Obviously, we are all obsessed with knitting, but why? What is it about knitting that you love with all your heart, and what are the other things that you love? They might not be anything like knitting. You know, for example, I suppose Harry Potter does have its knitting elements, doesn't it? I mean, I myself have knit a Mrs. Weasley jumper. But Doctor Who, for example, doesn't really chime with knitting. I don't think any of the Doctors have ever been knitters. That's probably one for the next Doctor, Stephen Moffat. Just a thought, little bit of inspiration there for you. But I would love to hear what obsesses you. What do you love more than anything? What do you love reading about, watching videos about, doing? How can you bring that into your best year ever, Cal? I would love to know. I will start a thread on the Ravelry group and I will link it in the show notes so you can find it nice and easily. Again, I'm sorry for a shorter episode this week. Hopefully my shoulder will recover. I think I'm going to put something warm on it to loosen up the muscles a little bit. Also, plenty of tea, as always. I am English, and when in doubt, I drink tea. And I will be back next week. I'm not sure yet what day I'm going to film, because I do have Friday till about Wednesday off work, so I might film a little bit later so I can let you know how Rich's birthday day out went. But I will let you know, I will keep you posted. Thank you so much again for spending some time with me. I can't wait to see you again next week for another cup of tea. Take care, bye!